Somebody at Hasbro must really love Alex Ross, because they just announced an all-new Earth X Captain America. And so far the render looks like it has a lot of potential. Well, I'm also a fan of his work, so I immediately started thinking what other Alex Ross designs would make great Marvel Legends. And my final pick isn't gonna surprise you, but you should continue watching anyway. I'm Glenn, and this is Super Articulated. Alright, we're gonna try a new camera angle. I really wasn't joking when I said that someone at Hasbro obviously likes Alex Ross. The Bucky Cap figure is one of the most important Marvel Legends figures ever made, and it is based on a design from Alex Ross. When Marvel's 80th anniversary hit, Hasbro released specifically Alex Ross versions of Captain America, Thor, and Iron Man. I forget what the storyline was, but there was a Spider-Man redesign by Alex Ross. We got Alex Ross's Iron Man redesign pretty recently. And when the 2002 movie was coming out, Alex Ross was asked to redesign Spider-Man's costume for the big screen. And that design, while it wasn't used in the film, was later adapted into Superior Spider-Man's costume. But why don't we go over the actual list now? I have 7 choices that I want to talk about today, and number 7 on the list is going to be Thor from Earth X. You might notice something a little different about this Thor design. He's got a lot more circles on his torso. And also he's a woman. Well, female at least. It's still Thor in there after all. In the deep lore of Earth X, Loki tricks Odin into cursing Thor, telling him Thor hasn't learned his lesson from the mortals and he's being promiscuous with attractive women on Earth. So Odin decides to give Thor a little bit of an ironic punishment, and Odin curses Thor to be the subject of desire in men's eyes. And surprisingly, this doesn't affect him too much because he just goes right back to fighting supervillains again. I actually kind of really like this design. It's a bit of an amalgamation between Valkyrie and Thor's design. And it looks like when Thor was turned female, he shrunk a little bit, and his costume no longer fit, forcing him to tie his tunic around his more slight frame. Or Alex Ross was, just being a little gooner that day. But I like the braids coming down, the wings are extended, and it looks like his boots that normally come up his shin and cover his knee are a little too big on him, so he brings it up over his thigh. Unfortunately, I think if it were turned into an action figure, it'd pretty much have to be a 100% new sculpt. Hasbro could probably base it on the Power Princess body, maybe use the arms, but yeah, the rest is probably gonna have to be all new, and that might actually be a good thing if it's trying to match the level of realism that the Earth X Captain America has. Number 6. I'm going to be cheating here a little bit and say Hulk, but not Earth X Hulk. I actually don't like that design very much. Not the Incredible Hulk, the Immortal Hulk, which is really just Alex Ross's interpretation of Jack Kirby's Hulk, with that flat top head, with that giant brow, with the tiny ass nose and the large lip area. I forget what this is called. That is the Hulk to me. So much so that I actually somehow tracked down a guy who made some Alex Ross Immortal Hulk sculpts that I'm gonna grab real quick. These are the heads that I use for my Avengers display Hulk. He had 2 up. One sort of like a gritting teeth expression, and one that has open mouth, screaming in anger expression. And I actually commissioned him. I gave him $50 to make a calm head. Based on the mural that Alex Ross did for Marvel. And then I commissioned Custom Poser to actually paint them. Specifically, if Hasbro were to translate this Hulk design into an action figure, they could just reuse that Hulk body that they've been using for 7 years now and give him a new Alex Ross or simply Jack Kirby head. But specifically, we are missing an Avengers #1 style Hulk. We haven't gotten one of those since the Galactus series variant all the way back in 2004. And even then, he didn't come with the shorts that he wore prominently in those first few issues of Avengers. Number 5 is going to be another Earth X design, but it's not going to be an existing character. This is going to be the character Iron Maiden, an original character designed by Ross. From what I recall, Iron Maiden was originally a scientist who was working with either adamantium or vibranium when the Terrigen mists hit and the whole world started mutating into Inhumans. And at the same time, something went wrong at the lab and she ended up being covered in vibranium and trapped inside of it, almost like an Iron Maiden. Wow. But I think at some point she realizes that the Terrigen mists have affected her and she is actually able to control the vibranium, and she uses it to essentially make a almost naked armor over herself. She's got her symbol on her chest, and it looks like a cross between the male and female planetary symbols, but I think in this case it's supposed to represent vibranium. That design looks a hell of a lot like DC's Metal Men, cross between the Iron Man Mark II, maybe, horned faceplate. And in that case, an action figure of her could probably just be reuse of, I don't know, the Shriek body or something more articulated like the Deluxe Phoenix body. Number 4. So a while ago, Alex Ross redesigned all of the core X-Men's costumes. And while these costumes borrow heavily from those early X-Men films, I think the weakness of these designs is that they're all very similar in the same way that the original training uniforms were. It wasn't really until the 1970s where each individual member of the X-Men got their own costume to reflect their own personalities in unique ways. But what Alex Ross does do is give an extra flair to each individual costume, not just in color, but there's usually one design element from each costume that sets it apart from the next. In Wolverine's case, he gets hints of his tiger stripes creating notches in the X of his suit. But the one design that I truly love from this set is Nightcrawler's. How it incorporates the little priest collar around his neck, showcasing his famous Catholic faith. I also love the purple of his suit. It is solely unique to him and would just make a great standalone design in the main Marvel universe. I think with Nightcrawler figures, they have to pay an extra licensing fee. And if they use this design, they'd probably have to pay an additional licensing fee to Alex Ross. So I don't know if a figure like this would ever get made, but I think it would make a great figure. Design number 3, another Earth X design, Venom. But not a Venom that you might be familiar with. This is Earth X Venom. Essentially an alternate version of Spider-Girl, who herself is an alternate future of the main 616 universe, Spider-Man's daughter, Mayday Parker. But at some point she comes in contact with the Venom symbiote, and because of the relationship between the Venom symbiote and her father, she is able to form a perfect symbiosis with that symbiote. I would imagine this would be pretty expensive deco, but the design is so clever and so amazing that I think it would be worth it 1,000%. The traditional webs that you would find in a Spider-Man costume have been turned into essentially veins running throughout her body, and the arms of the spider symbol on her chest essentially become the arteries that run through her arms and legs. It's an extremely original and amazing looking design that would make an amazing action figure. Number 2, it's his interpretation of the original Human Torch. What I love about this design specifically is how Ross took the negative of a photograph and essentially used that as a base for what a man on fire should look like, in a way that it makes this core in this android look like it is white hot. And then as the flames cool down, it becomes red hot on the surface of his skin. And then further distinction in color is made for the actual flames jumping off of his body. He's a key part of the All-Winter Squad. He's the key part of the Invaders. He was kind of later a big part of the West Coast Avengers. And all around, is probably Marvel's first superhero, right? Either him or Namor. And that's a shame that he's never gotten a figure before. What could they actually do, though? I suppose they could try and cast him in a translucent white, and then maybe do like a clear spray of red on the crests of his muscles and everything. And then any of the flames that are like leaping off of his body, maybe those could be cast in a translucent yellow. Or could they possibly do some kind of like gradient while injecting the colored plastic in the mold? But I think that would be a really interesting design to try and figure out, a nice little challenge for the Marvel Legends team. Before we get to number one, and you already know who it is, come on, I want to throw out some honorable mentions. I think the Earth X Cursed Namor design is pretty cool. How he's sort of half regular Namor, half Human Torch almost. Also, his redesigns for Captain Marvel and Monica Rambeau Captain Marvel, they use a lot of that same base black motif like that Bucky cap and the Superior Spider-Man costume design. It sort of calls back to the original Captain Marvel suit while also making something modern and sleek. But let's just get to number one. Of course, it's going to be Earth X Daredevil. Have you ever heard the observation how Batman does a bunch of like acrobatic stunts and Daredevil has this weird sonar vision, and how they should probably switch names? Well, there is no such friction in this Daredevil design. This guy is a tried and true circus Daredevil, and his costume definitely reflects that. Basically, this little kid is living in New York with his grandma and sister when the Terrigen Mists hit. His grandma, like, mutates and dies. I forget what happens to the sister exactly, but I think she dies too. But our main character, I think his name is Michael or something, he seems to be unaffected, and eventually I think he's found by Spider-Man maybe, and he's taken to the Fantastic Four Baxter building, where he is experimented on to see if they can find a cure for this inhuman disease. I think the Baxter building might explode, and this kid seemingly dies, but then just comes back like nothing happened. And he realizes that his inhuman power, while it didn't affect his physical appearance, makes him immortal. And years later, he becomes a circus performer named Daredevil with that getup. This would be, obviously, a perfect candidate for the Ultimate Riders subline. They might be able to reuse that motorcycle mode that we've gotten so many times, as long as they add a healthy amount of overlays on top. It's not an incredibly complicated design. You could probably put this on the Vulcan body with a new torso and pretty much call this a day. But all of these characters would just make amazing companion pieces to Captain America, the new Earth X Captain America coming out. An alternate version of Thor, an alternate version of Iron Man, kind of, an alternate version of Spider-Man, not the Incredible Hulk, Immortal Hulk, an alternate version of Daredevil, and Human Torch as a nice supporting character for Captain America, Nightcrawler, or maybe you could do Wolverine, but certainly not the Earth X Wolverine. That version of Wolverine fucking sucks. I will certainly take any more designs to add to my Alex Ross shrine. In the comments, let me know how you like my list and if I missed anybody or someone you might swap in instead. If you like this video, let me know by leaving a like. And also, maybe consider subscribing because I put out videos like this every week. One of the best things you can do for your favorite content creators, as soon as they post a video, hype it. Go on mobile, swipe left on the comment section, and you have a certain amount of points that you can dedicate to hyping a video, which places that video higher in the algorithm so it'll be pushed to more people. And if you genuinely want to help your favorite creators, and maybe me, use that hype function. It really helps. I'm Glenn, and this is Super Articulated. Hey, Inart, I know you're making that 1/12 scale Alex Ross Superman, but I was wondering if you could fill perhaps another niche market. I'll buy it.